your experience is you might sense the separation, but you might also be wondering, how do I sense the nearness? Or in a sense, how can I validate that God has forgiven me of my sin, right? How do I know? I mean, maybe you just feel like, well, I confess, but I don't sense anything. What should I do? Well, there's a story, or kind of an account in the Old Testament that illustrates what happened back in the Old Testament, how the sins of the people were taken care of. It's very interesting. It's in Leviticus 16. And what happened was the high priest would go into this holiest room, the Holy of Holies, with blood, sprinkled the blood of bulls and goats, and he would sprinkle that blood in the presence of God, and he would do it once a year. And that blood sprinkled would satisfy God's demand. It would give God the way to cover the people's sins. His sins, his family's sins, all the people's sins, that was the way. But do you know that no one was allowed to go with him into the Holy of Holies? No one was allowed to observe what was happening. And so all the people, if they were wondering, have my sins been forgiven? They just had to ask, did the high priest go this year into the Holy of Holies? And they would say, did the high priest go this year? And yeah, he went in. Aaron went in. It's okay. God has been appeased. So let me tell you, Christ has gone into the heavenly Holy of Holies. Isn't this good news? And he doesn't have to do it once a year. He did it once for all with his own blood, not the blood of bulls and goats. So, it's so awesome. He has obtained an eternal redemption for us. So although we may not see it, the blood of Christ is there in the presence of God. And we sang that song, Arise, my soul, arise. And it says, 5 bleeding wounds he bears. And I think it says they speak, and it says, and they're saying, forgive him. Forgive, they cry, nor let that ransomed sinner die. And so his blood is in the presence of God, and it is speaking for you. I don't know if you knew this. The blood of Christ is speaking for you, and it is crying out to God, forgive him, forgive him. Isn't that awesome? So this is the real state of things. We don't see it, we can't observe it, but we can believe it, and we can accept it. If God is satisfied by the blood, we also can be satisfied that God is satisfied. We don't need to have a higher standard than God to accept that God forgave us. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the first problem. The blood, it closes the gap between us and God.